Hi everyone, so here. In this video, I'm bringing you a quick guide on how you can get to tier 150 every time you do Echoing Nightmare solo. So of course, with Echoing Nightmare here in season 26, there are two numbers to know, that is tier 125 and tier 150. With 125, you get the maximum augment, and at tier 150, you get the max XP. So when you are doing these Echoing Nightmares, you want to get to tier 150 as many as possible so you get the most XP value per petrified scream. Because petrified screams are fairly low drop rate, of course. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to do this every single time consistently. I'm going to do it even on solo hardcore. It is of course a lot easier on softcore and also of course in groups. I'm going to show you from the perspective of a Marauder Demon Hunter, but the general tips in this video will still help any class. So when I go into an Echoing Nightmare, I get prep. Basically what I do is I put my sentries in each corner of the map, and I'm of course playing Marauder Multishot. This has the best AoE situation for the entire game when doing these Echoing Nightmares, as the sentries and Multishot will clear the entire screen every time you shoot. So this is by far the best build for clearing the early tiers, basically from tier 0 to 100. You can skip them really fast so you can get up there really quick, and that way you have high efficiency because you're clearing each Echoing Nightmare faster. So we start off with the sentries each corner of the map, and then we simply just start blasting. Now there are a few things to know about this. That is, at 100 you get meteors, they hurt a lot, but the most important thing for us is our pylon timings. So about tier 90 I will go and take up the speed pylon, and these timings should also work fairly decent for you, especially if you're a Marauder Demon Hunter, but you can also try them for any other class. So at tier 90 I will take the speed, and then at about 120 I will take the channeling and the power. This will allow me to kill monsters that now spawn and they have a lot of health. Basically, the monsters from tier 0 to 100 are basically one shot, and after that they of course start scaling a lot more. So 120 we take the channeling and the power, and then about 130 we also take the conduit. Now it is important to be fairly tanky because you do want to use the conduit. The conduit does pretty good damage, so you want to make sure you can stand in the middle of the room where all the monsters are and zap them with the conduit, as that will allow you to get a lot more tiers early on. So make sure to prioritize tankiness, have all resistance for instance, and of course also a decent amount of vitality. But that's basically it. We just start blasting with this build. It is fairly simple with the Marauder Demon Hunter. We're just dodging all the meteors, trying to keep at range but also close enough to set them with the conduit, get to tier 150, and of course for softcore, when you get to tier 150 you could just go in and die, get hit by meteor. But on hardcore you don't want to do that, you want to get overwhelmed, you don't want to lose your character. So I simply just go kind of AFK, I just stand around in the corners, just jump around with vaulting a little bit and just wait it out. It normally doesn't take more than 5 to 10 seconds anyway, so it's fine. And then after that, of course, you can just collect your winnings from the chest, get a ton of Paragon, get the 125 augment, and of course also a decent amount of bloodshards and overall loot. This is by far the best leveling strategy, especially as solo, but it's also really good for groups because only one person has to use a petrified scream to open one. So if you're using a Demon Hunter for this, just remember at 90 take speed, at 120 take power and channeling, and then at 130 take the conduit. Try those timings for you, see if it works out. If you have a bit lower damage, let's say you're Paragon 800 or so, you might have to try and delay the conduit a little bit longer, maybe get to 135, because you basically want that conduit to last until you get to 150. But those timings should be pretty decent overall for any class and build. I'm now going to show you my build and my setup, so if you have a Marauder Demon Hunter you can then of course copy that, because it's really good and powerful. So of course on the Demon Hunter here we have the Marauder 5-piece and the 2-piece Captain Crimsons. This gives you a lot of cooldown reduction and resource cost reduction, allowing you to spam your multi-shot a lot more. So of course make sure you have all your 5 sentries out at all times. Try and place them fairly spread apart. You could basically have your sentries like this so they are really spread apart, but if there's a monster in the middle, all of them can still hit it when you fire a multi-shot, but they are also individually able to attack monsters outside your view. And that is why this build is so strong for this Echoing Nightmare. Of course, for the weapon, get a Yang's Recurve. Prioritize getting a high resource cost reduction, getting 10% damage and cooldown reduction. And of course also a high secondary, since we are using multi-shot. Try and get at least a 190 on your secondary. For the quiver, get Bombardier's Rucksack. Now you don't need to worry about the secondary at all. As you can see, I have run with 200% here. That only applies to cluster arrow, so this could be 150 for instance. But what you do want is a high sentry damage. You can see mine is 90 out of 100 right now. Try and get this or even higher actually. And after that you want cooldown reduction, attack speed, crit chance and resource cost reduction. For the wings, using focus and restraint. And ideally you want it like this, so you want a flat damage roll, crit chance and crit damage. But since we are still early season, something like this also works really well. So dexterity, crit. For the gloves, get cooldown reduction, crit chance, crit damage and resource cost reduction. So basically these, but with resource cost instead of the attack speed. For the shoulders, get cooldown reduction, resource cost reduction, and sentry damage. For the helmet, get multi-shot damage, crit chance, and dexterity. And we're of course socketing with a resource cost reduction gem. For the chest armor, get sentry damage, dexterity, and all resistance. For the belt, Captain Crimson's, get dexterity, vitality, all resistance, and armor. And the same thing for the pants, dexterity, vitality, always. For the boots, multi-shot damage, dexterity, all resistance, and vitality. For the amulet, Squirt's amulet, get fire damage, crit chance, and crit damage. For the bracers, Wraps of Clarity, get a high secondary, try and get 48 or above, because you want the damage reduction. And then after that, you want fire damage, crit chance, dexterity, and then life per hit or vitality. For the legendary gems, using Bane the Trapped, using Sage Stone of Vengeance, and then also Enforcer. These are our biggest damage multipliers, so we of course use all 3 of these. And try and get them to high levels by doing some kind of pushing in Great Rifts, of course. For the cube, Deadman's Legacy, of course, for the multi-shot multiplier. Soul Secret for a massive toughness increase. And then Ring of Royal Grandeur to have our 5-piece water and our 2-piece Captain Crimson's and get the full effect of both the sets. For the skills, Evasive Fire Focus, Multi-Shot Arsenal, Sentry Polar Station, Companion Wolf Companion, Vault Tumble, and then Vengeance Seized for massive hatred per second increase. For the passives, Ballistic, Ambush, Awareness, and Custom Engineering. Now, if you are playing softcore and you feel like you are pretty tanky, you could swap your Awareness out for Call the Weak for even more damage. But for hardcore, it is definitely a good idea to have your cheat death. For the follower, we use Enchantress. We're using the relics so we get access to our skills, get 25k main stat either by crafting gear with main stat or re-rolling on a int class. So all the items I have been acquired on this Demon Hunter here, but I've then made a level 1 Witch Doctor and re-roll it over there. Make sure you have a Flavor of Time and an Oculus Ring as well for more damage, and then give the follower Esoteric Alteration and Mutilation Guard for even more toughness. Now a little side note for hardcore, I have been told a few times that there are things in there that are invincible or invisible that can kill you just randomly. So if you're playing hardcore, you can't just die randomly. So what I would do is make a completely different character for Echoing Nightmares. By that I mean, of course, have your main character to do everything on, and then have a separate character for Echoing Nightmares. On this separate character, you want everything different. Basically, every single piece of gear should be a different item, because in case you do die in Echoing Nightmares, you still want to be able to do your speed jars, for instance. Also, losing your armory, having to remake all your builds would be a waste of time. And of course, also your main gems, losing those in Echoing Nightmares would be terrible. So have your main for farming and pushing and all that, and have a completely different character with a different armory for only Echoing Nightmares. Because there are some things in there that will kill you without you having any control over it. Also make sure to check out some other Diablo 3 content with the 2 videos on the screen now if you want to see more from me. So I'll see you in one of those videos. Peace out everyone.